quit thinking in a restricted way. Quit thinking in a budgeted way. God has called us to abundance. It's in the Bible, and it's getting more and more clear. We need to quit being afraid of abundance. We need to quit being afraid of wealth. We need to quit learning to be afraid of money. We need to quit learning to be afraid of what they say, filthy rich. We need to quit being afraid of those things, because if you're honest with yourself, there is something in you, not to be greedy, not to be mean to people, but there's something in you that wants more. It's that simple. That's because God put that in you. And He's given us guidelines and examples in His King James Bible in order to do that. So one way that I'm learning to do this, and I've seen the benefits of it, is quit thinking and doing in a restricted, budgeted way. We want you to change your mindset. See, a lot of this starts with what we think and what we say. And we've been thinking negative thoughts for so many years, and actually speaking those negative thoughts, and guess who's guilty? That it comes out in actual reality. So what that looks like, here's some examples of what I'm talking about. Well, I can't afford that. Or how are we going to afford that? And I'm talking, you start thinking and saying these things now when you're broke. And change it to, what am I going to do so I can afford that? What am I going to change so I can afford that? Learning that there's really no such thing as expensive. We think expensive because we're living this budgeted, small life. And I get it. You're in a situation right now and you don't know how to change. I know. I've been broke and busted, disgusted, couldn't be trusted. And in a lot of ways, I'm still there. I ain't hit it big yet either, but I'm doing this stuff in the trenches, putting the videos out while I haven't arrived to help you see there's a man out there doing it before he arrived. And then when he does arrive, the blessing he can be to other people, and what you can learn. What you can learn from him while he's in the trenches, and when he's on the platforms. Example right now. Well, let me go back to expensive. It's all relative. Okay, if you're only making $2,000 a month, a $10,000 car is expensive. If you're making $5,000 a month, $10,000 car don't seem so expensive. And then if you start thinking about payments, and you start making $10,000, a used $25,000 car don't seem so expensive. But then once you start playing, like I'm still thinking small. The $10,000 a month was the thing for me, and I've hit it 3 or 4 times, not consistently. The next number is $30,000, and for right now, that's playing big time. $30,000 a month. When you start making $30,000 a month, even buying a $60,000 truck, that ain't expensive. I'm gonna give you some weird numbers. I'm just gonna skip all the other numbers and go to $1 million a month. What's expensive for you at $1 million a month? But here's the part we don't want to hear, what we don't like. So example right now, changing the way we think and how we do things while you're broke. Here's the part we don't like to hear. It's all the work it takes to get to that point of $30,000 a month, $50,000 a month, $1 million a month. It takes years of constant work, whatever that looks like for you, work. And I'm never gonna condone, it's never right for your work and your hustle to damage your family, to break your relationship up with your wife. Your wife is your number one priority, your children are your second, and without saying, your relationship with God is always number one. Don't sacrifice any of that. You don't have to if you do it God's way. But it takes work. It takes trial and tribulation. It takes suffering. It takes you tapping into what God has put in you. You already know what it is. You sit down and think about it, you already know what it is. What you love to do, what's easy for you to do, what people ask you a lot about, and you just seem to naturally know how to do things. Those things God gave you. And He wants you to do it, make money at it. But He wants you to cultivate it. He wants you to sow the seed. He wants you to break up the ground. He wants you to plant. He wants you to garden. He wants you to wait to make you into the man He needs you to be in order to do that work. But we need to start. One way to start is changing the way we think and how we do, and getting out of this budgeted, restricted way of doing things and thinking things. So here's some examples, and we'll end on this. I kept looking back at a gas tank. What do you call it? A pump gas station thing. I don't even know what you call it. Getting gas. Okay? Listen, I believe for the most part that all that gas, in a lot of ways, is the same gas. In a lot of ways. Not every way, but there's probably a lot. I've seen documentaries on it, and I've known guys who have worked at these pump houses where they fill up their tankers with gas, and one guy being trained, and he's, oh, well, that's not that. This is the unleaded. That's the super unleaded. He says, oh, it's all the same. Okay, there's probably a lot of truth to that stuff. But there is the cheap gas, and there is the high-performance gas. And for the most part, we get the cheap gas because it's cheaper and we budget it. I want to challenge you. Just start buying the expensive gas. Just start buying the expensive gas. Now, I'm not saying that, hey, you only got $10 in your account. I mean, I get that. I get that. Well, there's no money in the account. Well, we're looking for pennies under cushions. I get that. But it's a mindset. It's a mindset. Just really thinking like that and think, okay, I've got a few bucks, just let me spend a little extra on more expensive gas. That's one way to do it. Buy a little bit more expensive food every once in a while. Every once in a while. Because and there's so much involved in this, our nutrition and our health and all this stuff. But start buying a little more healthy stuff that costs a little bit more expensive. Learn to say, there's plenty of that. There's plenty more where that came from. There's plenty more where that came from. Learn to say those phrases. There's plenty more where that came from. Because it's nothing but money. It's nothing but money. And God owns it all. He ain't restricted at all by money. Not one bit. So learn to say there's plenty more where that came from. And when you got to pay fees. Listen, I'm hitting on topics that get me aggravated. When you got to pay fees on credit card purchases or dump fees or whatever kind of fees you got. I got dump fees. I had to pay an extra $15 for a printer at the dump. A little dinky printer. And I fought the idea of not saying anything about it. That temptation's there. Listen, you cannot stop birds from flying around your head, but you can keep them from putting a nest in there. Satan's going to give you all kinds of thoughts. Your body's going to give you all kinds of thoughts. But you don't have to act on them. So I didn't want to tell her about the printer. But I did. And you know what? Because it pleases God, it's right. And it ain't nothing but money. It don't matter. There's plenty more where that came from. And for me, I learned a long time ago, I probably 6 or 7 years ago, about non-ethanol gas. Ethanol is bad. It's bad. There ain't nothing good about ethanol. That's why most guys, if they own boats or power equipment, they don't put that ethanol gas in it. For whatever reason, it messes up those engines a lot quicker than it messes up our regular car engines, but it messes them up. And so when I started seeing that there was places that were selling non-ethanol gas, I put it in all my vehicles. And it's more expensive. But there's more money where that came from. Ain't no big deal. Start changing the way you think. Quit thinking restrictive of your time. Having to be so rigid. Well, I have to get up at this time to accomplish this, or I have to do this in order to do that, or I have to save this amount of money in order to do that. We want to get out of that mindset. What else am I doing? Quit buying the cheap shampoo. Buy the little more expensive stuff. Start implementing these little things in your life and changing the way you think. And you'll catch yourself in every area of life. Okay, that's a restrictive thought. Okay, that's a budgeted thought. But you've got to do some things sometimes because of your situation. I'm not talking about the have to, no way around it. I'm talking about just the general way of how we're thinking. And if we start looking at it, we'll catch ourselves how often you're being restrictive in your thought. You're being restricted in your budget. You're being restricted in your time. You need to stop thinking like that. And in a lot of ways, it simply boils down to learning to just rest in God. Hope that helps you. Like and subscribe. Send your emails, send your phone numbers, comments. You can email me at chrishuffman513@gmail.com. Text me at 970-697-0232. I put a lot of this free content out. It's good content. It'll help you, ain't no doubt about it. I have decided that I'm going to put out free content that it's the type of stuff that if I wanted to put in the package and sell it, I could sell it. But I do have products I sell. I've got books and programs that range from $100 to $12,000. If there's anything that I'm saying that resonates with you and you think you can get some help from me, from Faithful Man is what we're calling ourselves, we'll do it. Keep your eyes on Him.